This podcast is sponsored by CSMI, the maker of the HUMAC Norm isokinetic system. Purchase a new or refurbished machine, or you can even upgrade an existing system to bring it up to date with all the latest testing and training applications. Please visit csmisolutions.com to view all of their available products, including the HUMAC Norm isokinetic system, the HUMAC Balance portable computerized balance system, and Sportswear Online. CSMI. Better data leads to better results. Looking for a way to improve sport-specific training with your athletes? Then you have to check out BlazePods. BlazePods is a neurocognitive reaction training intervention that can be incorporated into your sessions for patients throughout the treatment spectrum. Visit blazepod.com, enter code EverythingPT at checkout, and save 15% off your order today.
Hello, and welcome to the Everything PT podcast with Matt Taylor and Daniel Bodkin. Please do not consider anything you hear to be medical advice. Just a couple of guys ranting about everything PT. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Everything PT podcast. I am joined today by my co-host, Matthew Taylor. I'm Daniel Bodkin. And Matt, this is episode 11.
Crazy, man. We're in double digits now. And yeah, good to be with you again, Dan. You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Just finished up a workout, and then I have to go run off after this and go to a client's house and do a little PT. But we have a guest today, Matt.
Yeah. It's my friend Justin Elliott here. So Justin, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Daniel, for having me on today.
Yeah, we're glad that you're here with us, buddy. So for those of everyone that does not know Justin, he is the Vice President of Government Affairs for the American Physical Therapy Association. So Justin, Daniel and I are both members. So Daniel just became a member today within the last
20 minutes
hours.
I was in between sets, and I had to kill. I had to find 2 minutes to kill between sets. So, you know what? And look, I've been a holdout for the last 10 years, and my mentor, pounded me, against the wall for years. Become a member, and I finally feel like it's time. And especially it's great that we had you on today, because it gave me a reason. I couldn't come on here and not say, I'm a member. So I'm a member as of today.
Thank you for your membership.
Thank you.
So sorry, Justin, you are the lobbyer, one of the main lobbyists that our profession has. So we're talking our target audience is a lot of physical therapists, physical therapy students, and even some other folks too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about lobbying, dumb it down for us a little bit, and why it is important.
So yeah, and first to start off, again, thanks for having me on. And my in my current role as Vice President of Government Affairs, I oversee APTA's efforts aimed at Capitol Hill, but also working with our state chapters in the state legislatures, as well as our grassroots program, ways that we can work with members, PTs, PTAs, and students to get energized and contact their members of Congress or their state legislators. It's a funny thing. I actually, I've been at APTA for 20 years, just had my 20th anniversary. And before years ago, I started off, obviously working for a number of elected officials up on Capitol Hill and some state legislators, and ended up working at a lobbying firm doing banking and financial services, which was fine, but it's really hard to wake up every morning and get passionate about banking and financial services. But in the fall of 2001, I broke my leg, had a pretty bad accident, compound break, multiple fractures in my lower left leg, had to have surgery, titanium rods, the whole deal. And it was a physical therapist who came into my hospital room one day when I was feeling, sorry for myself and sad. And she said, all right, it's time to stop moping. I'm going to teach you how to walk today. And that's how it was my first experience with physical therapy. And A few weeks later, I'm reading the Washington Post. I see a want ad for APTA, and I said, that's where I want to work. I want to go work for the PTs and PTAs who helped me learn how to walk again. And that's where I've been for the last 20 years. And, lobbying, when it comes to the work of lobbying and advocacy, why it is important, having been on both sides, having worked for elected officials and now on the other side, trying to educate elected officials, is that, but whether it's a state legislator, a member of Congress, or someone who works at CMS, or someone who works at an insurance company, they sometimes often don't know a whole lot about healthcare. And they also don't know a lot about physical therapy, who PTs and PTAs are. And, that's just because they have to deal with so many thousands of different issues. And so where lobbying and advocacy is so critical, not only the work that we do as lobbyists here at APTA, but our member advocates who contact their members of Congress and state legislators, it's because it's a way to connect the dots for them, to identify what are the problems when it comes to patient care, to provider burden, and tell that story and provide them the motivation to act and do something about it, and not just not do anything about it. And so that is why I think it is advocacy is important. The work, whether it's the stuff that we're doing on Capitol Hill, because it's, we can't just let things stay the same. And by raising our voice, we are trying to make a difference. And as the good old saying is, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. And that is why it is so important for advocacy and lobbyists, because we don't want to be on the menu. We want to have a seat at the table.
Yeah. No doubt. And Daniel, you brought up a startling fact to me before we came on the air, but just about chiropractic, they have just this huge buy-in. It's almost, did you say 100%, Dan?
That is an unconfirmed number there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I've heard that. No, I've heard that before. It might be true. It might not be true.
It's high. It's high, right?
High.
And our percentage is, Justin, do you have any idea what our percentage would be of therapists who are members?
Yeah, in terms of total licensed therapists, I believe we're between 30 and 35%, which is actually, when you look at other provider groups, is kind of on average. And I think, what's important about APTA membership is it's voluntary. You don't have to become a member. And I think that is what is so critical for those folks who are members. It's because of those folks who become members. That's how APTA is able to do what we do. We wouldn't exist without members.
Well, I became a member today, right? Aside from, joining, sections and your state chapter, I believe it was $400 for the annual for me to join. Where does that money go? If we could just break it down as a percentage,
Yep.
What percentage of those dollars are going where?
Yeah, so great question, because I think if you look at the percentage of dollars that go to APTA, less than half go to what I call the operations, keeping the lights on, running a building, paying staff, making sure we pay the electric bill, having the IT equipment, the infrastructure, everything from, just making sure the day-to-day running of a national organization. But the majority of the funding goes to things, like stuff that we're trying to do in terms of public relations and media relations, things like our, we just had last year we had our consumer public service announcement, the Choose to Move campaign. And that was an investment into trying to get, ad time on television and radio to make that happen. It's things like the events that we put on, not just combined sections meeting, which is probably the most popular, but to give you an idea, a big investment we do is our Capitol Hill fly-in. And so back in September, APTA, we flew in over 200 of our members, got for their airfare, their hotel, brought them to DC for a number of days to train and talk to them about these issues, scheduled them to meet with their members of Congress so that they could go and say, listen, I'm here from North Dakota. I'm here from Hawaii. I'm from Nevada. I'm a PT, PTA. Let me tell you what you need to do to help my patients and help me as a provider. And so it's investments in events like that. We're actually doing a fly-in, another Capitol Hill fly-in in June, where again, we're going to be bringing close to 150 APTA members to Washington to do things like that. It's also things that go into, research and studies. Give you an example. For those who work in post-acute care, know that like throughout the whole healthcare system, there's this question about the value of services. And so we partnered with our friends at AOTA to do a major study on the value of therapy, at least in the post-acute care space, which was released. So that was something that, again, was a major investment. And we're doing the same now for other areas of where physical therapists and physical therapists work, to be able to tell the value story, because we bring so much value to the table. And it's things like, looking at the Learning Center, providing events and courses to help our members be able to get their CEUs. It's money that goes towards supporting states. For example, we throughout the years have provided a number of state grants to our state chapters to pursue things like direct access, combating referral for profit, fighting back against infringement from other providers. And so it's really a wide spectrum of things that the money goes to. And it's something, some things are scenes, and some things you can point to and say, combined sections meeting. Oh, I got the journal. I have this magazine. There's a Choose PT website, which had over 4 million visitors who went to Choose PT. And so that's something that's visible, but it's the things that folks don't see that happen behind the scenes of, putting together resources, having those meetings with commercial insurance companies, having to flying members to DC or to a state capital to testify, that we would not be able to do that if we didn't have membership dollars.
Go ahead. Another big question I got for you is this: what's in it for me? I just spent money, but I honestly, I skipped over, the benefits side of it, just so I wouldn't already know the answer. Right. So when I joined today, what are some of the benefits that I get out of that?
Yeah, so there's the tangible benefits that you see when you sign up for membership. You get the discounts and things like with HPSO and all these other products that you have access to, and of course the events and the continuing education. But it's really it's the intangible things you don't necessarily see every day, and that is a group of folks, both members and our volunteers, who are fighting every day, whether it's at state capitals, whether it's trying to talk to reporters to get them to do stories about the physical therapy profession. It's about being able to go to political events and doing political meetings. Before we came on, I told you I was literally in a cab getting back here because I was doing a meeting up on Capitol Hill. And so it is, what's in it for you is the knowledge that you are helping defend the profession and help advance more importantly, helping advance the profession. Because again, we are in a healthcare environment, which is the most challenging I think it's ever been. Payment is terrible. We have administrative burden. We have competition from different providers. We need to get our story out. We need to connect with more consumers. And that is what APTA is all about. That's what all our components are about, is trying to not only defend, but advance the profession. So along with those tangible things, it's also, you have folks who are fighting every day for the profession.
So you were just on Capitol Hill today. What does that kind of meeting look like? How are you conveying to these lawmakers that, reimbursements have continued to go down? Yep. We don't even got to talk about inflation, but costs are going up. Yeah. At some point, I have to think that the medical or the insurance model that we're using is going to crash. And how can we convey that to them unless they've been in your position where they've been in the bed with a broken leg, how important it is? Well,
two things. That's great, because, one thing that is what's so great about the PT profession is, one, we have a lot of members of Congress who have needed physical therapy and they have had experience. The second thing is what I call our policy brand on Capitol Hill. What do policymakers think of physical therapy and APTA? And we actually had an audit done, an independent audit that said, what do members of Congress think about physical therapy and APTA? And the good news is we scored really high. And so the thing of it is that one thing I'm so proud about our members, about APTA, when folks are doing advocacy, is they bring the facts, they bring the evidence, and they are truthful and tell their story so well. And so when we do these meetings, and Medicare is in crisis. The Medicare fee schedule, this is a tough situation. And I think this is why, again, advocating on Medicare payment is critical, because being able to go into these offices and say, listen, we are still in a pandemic. We had when you look at the impact of physical therapy clinics, the pandemic had on PT clinics, therapy got hit the hardest in terms of having to close down and lost revenues. And PT brings a lot of value to table. We are a great option, non-pharmacological option for folks who are at risk of opioids. We have falls prevention. We have now folks who have long COVID. We are part of the solution to the healthcare crisis, but yet Medicare thinks it's a grand idea to make cuts year over year, not only to us, just to be clear, they are cutting dozens of providers. And so I would say I wouldn't say silver lining is that this crisis that has developed in the last couple of years under the Medicare fee schedule, with them making cuts to all these providers during a pandemic, has really gotten the attention of members of Congress saying, why is that happening again? And so it is important, like for the meetings that I did today, was to be able to go in and say, we need some short-term relief. We need Congress to intervene, allocate more billions of dollars to the fee schedule to mitigate these cuts. But you have to start looking at some long-term reforms. We've got to, I don't want to blow up the fee schedule, but you got to blow up the fee schedule because it's not working for anybody. And this,
we need a new game.
We need a new game.
We really do.
This is not how you deliver healthcare in the United States, not through this fee schedule that is cut. So that's, it's really about painting that picture. And the work that I do on Capitol Hill is really a team effort, because I'm able then to have that member of Congress talk with some PTs and PTAs who are in their district, and they're able to say, yeah, this is what's happening to me. Let me tell you what's happening to my patients who are also voting constituents of yours. And so that's where it's so critical to get our story through.
So also just back on the fee schedule. So I am incentivized as a private practice owner to see people for a long time, 3 times a week for 3 or 4 months. Those days are over because we're not going to get that. And I sell outcomes too. I want to be able to show these patients, hey, look at our outcome measures. We're getting people better faster than ever, but I'm going to lose business because they're going to go out the door and they feel like they're getting slighted too. And they're going to get, 8 or 10 sessions for back pain, or something along those lines. But so yeah, we are not incentivized to do outstanding, great work right now, which is an issue, I think.
Yeah, it's not a value-based payment. It's not a value-based system. If we were really being paid on the value that we bring, I think PTs would probably be the highest paid healthcare providers under the fee schedule, because the value that we bring in terms of prevention and avoiding surgery and avoiding imaging and avoiding opioids. And so I think that is the other issue that is causing a lot of stress right now on Medicare. A couple of years ago, they created the MIPS program and alternative payment models, which was supposed to be a path to value-based outcomes and really paying on the value. And it's not working. It's too much paperwork. It's administratively burdensome, and folks aren't seeing there's no bang for the buck. And so I think that is adding to the urgency of major reforms are needed to Medicare, because again,
just how the G codes were, right, Justin? That's the same, just like the G codes were. Sorry to interrupt you, but G code was the same thing, same reason they stopped it, right?
It was unnecessary. And what happened to all that data, that they were supposed to get? So
I don't know. I sure filled it out. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Hey, all you rehab specialists out there. Do you have an isokinetic dynamometer just sitting around your clinic not being used? Little known fact, isokinetic machines that aren't used regularly are at higher risk for bouts of sadness. Help your machine out and take CSMI's newest CEU course, Isokinetics 101 online, created by me, Daniel Bodkin, and learn how to use all the exercise and testing applications available on your machine. With new and exciting rehab techniques in your toolbox, your sad isokinetic machine can become an active member of the rehab team again and regain its happiness. Isokinetics 101 online by CSMI has been approved for 8 credit hours for athletic trainers, physical therapists, and physical therapy assistants. Contact your state board for details on specific requirements. This course is available at humacnorm.com/courses/isokinetics-101. I have a question for you. All right. I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, one of the lowest cost of living cities in America. I now live in Atlanta. We're getting paid, reimbursement on a national level. But the cost for me to own a 3,000 square foot facility here in Atlanta is very different in different parts of the state. Or in different states, or even just, if I go 20 miles outside of Atlanta, it's much cheaper. So is there any kind of an adjustment that can be made on where you're practicing? But at the same time, second question, we have very different laws in every state. So how can we make things separate, giving them their own, kind of like payment schedule, but to where, let's say I live on the border of one state and I can get a treatment here, but yet I can't get that across the state. We'll just throw out dry needling because it's one that does that. How can we make physical therapy services more homogenous, but yet also that, alluding back to that question about the payment? Is that anything?
So yeah, it's great. The issue of a geographical cost index, why is it one county, is this, and then you go to the other county and obviously different dynamics. What's ironic is that Medicare does do some geographical changes in terms of payment, but obviously it's not enough. And that you have folks who are either in really high cost areas that are facing some major stresses. And then on the flip side, you have folks who are in really rural areas who cannot get anyone to come work for them because it's either because of the professional shortage areas. And so that is an issue that I think it continues to be a major area, again, not only for us, but for other providers. And now on the issue of practice across, how do we make it homogenous? Because this has been a big issue where every state obviously has their own practice act, their license, and everyone has their own scope of practice. One of the things that APTA has been doing, and with our state chapters as well, is to implement what we call the Model Practice Act for physical therapy. It's a standard practice act that we want all 50 states NDC to implement. So it's, again, uniform throughout all the states. Everyone has that same modern practice act, unrestricted direct access. You can teach or you can practice at the top of your license. And so we've been successful in getting that what we call the templated Model Practice Act implemented in a number of states. And it's been a journey. It's been a number of years journey. We still have a number of states to go, and we still need to go back and fix some other states. But that is definitely the goal. And that's another example of advocacy, not only working with our state chapters, but with our partners at the Federation of State Boards of Physical Therapy, talking and working with them about how can we make it easier, not only in terms of scope of practice, but licensure. And that's one of the reasons we created the Interstate Compact for PTs and PTAs, so that instead of having to manage 5 or 6 licenses, you can go to ptcompact.org and get a privilege to practice within 48 hours and be able to work across state lines or go into that state. So it's about trying to make, to your point, get that uniformity, but just also make it easier to get licensed and to maintain those licenses as well.
That is a great point. I'm really glad you told me that because I had no idea about that. I think our field of therapy just has our head down and we are working. We're working long hours. I myself have worked till 7 o'clock for someone else. I've worked on weekends. I've worked Christmas Day. I've worked holidays, and inpatient's a little different. I get to, but yeah, that's what we're dealing with right now. Instead of getting paid a little bit more and having a good work-life balance, that's where our field is going. So this topic of reimbursement, the fee schedule, very, very relevant. So a tough questions to field for sure, Justin. So,
and it's also, it's that work-life balance. I mean, everyone is exhausted because you treat a patient for an hour and then you got to do 3 hours of paperwork to get paid for it. And so, the issues of prior authorization, utilization management are huge right now. Things that we're working on, at the federal level, but also a lot of our state chapters. Maine was a great, Maine, Oregon, a few other states were able to do some legislation aimed at commercial payers at the state level. And that kind of gets to, when we talk about these conversations and advocacy we do with insurance companies, some of the big major insurance companies, it's important to have that dialogue and try to convince them and educate them and bring them along. But other times you got to do legislation, or you got to go to the insurance commissioner and say, this needs to be looked at, or you need to do like what Maine and Oregon and a few other states have done, which is to lay their hammer down and enact legislation to make that change, which they have been resistant to do. And so it's really that kind of carrot and stick approach when we're trying to advocate for all these different issues, trying to ways that we can collaborate and work together. But when push comes to shove, we need to see results.
Yeah.
And Justin, I have one final question from my end on it. What if we made it a mandatory? You had to be a member to practice, and we had 100% buy-in versus only 30% buy-in. How would that change?
That's a good question that we get. Why not just make it mandatory? I don't think we could make it mandatory. And I think even if we could, I don't think we would want to, because we want to earn people's membership. We want to show the value of membership. And that's tough because it's hard to communicate everything that we're doing and be able to show both the tangible and intangible things that come from the dues payment. And so I think that's something that we've tried to work better and harder on, is to tell the APTA story about what is the value of membership. Here's what your dues are going for. Here's what we're trying to get accomplished. Here's what we have gotten accomplished. And so I think that is something that we're committed to, is that we don't want this to be a mandatory thing. We want folks to be excited and to just choose to join the APTA because they see that value. And we're going to do a better job of telling our story to hopefully motivate more folks to be members. And I think to your point, though, let me put it this way. If we simply doubled our membership and got it up to maybe 60, 65%, I can't even, I mean, we would change the world. We really would. I mean, we are doing a lot with the resources we have, which are limited. But if we were able to double that, it's sky's the limit. And so I think that when we look at these amazing challenges that we have, which are, just kind of mind blowing some days when you see what's going on out there, to be able to effectively fight back and right some of these wrongs, everyone's in it together. And I hope that folks who are watching and listening will know that, we're all in this together. We all got to move forward, advance the ball, and try to get that touchdown.
Yeah. So that's an awesome answer. Thanks, Justin. But one more question is, let's go lead into it. So I just graduated PT school. I have just all this debt. And I just got married and got a mortgage on my house too. I want to go live life too. I don't want to, eat pork and beans for every day. We just had a financial advisor on to talk about how to manage debt, recently. And it was a really, really good thing. So why am I going to have to make this a priority? And the argument against the APTA membership is that it's just, I don't see them doing anything. Why would I invest this much money when I have all these loans to pay off for an organization that's not doing anything for me today? And that's from people that I've talked to, because I'm trying to lobby for the APTA, so I want to have something just to give them too for that.
Justin, that's a lot of creatine that I'm not able to buy.
Yeah.
The meathead.
Creatine is expensive. Yeah. No, and it's a great point.
Protein shakes.
Yeah, it gets back to, because I mean, everyone, you have the work-life balance issue, but then you also have the situation of mounting student debt, decreasing reimbursement, more administrative burden, and now you want me to pay APTA dues, and what am I getting out of it? And so I think, the one document I would point to that's going to be coming out hopefully in the next week or two will be the APTA 2021 annual report, which will provide just a snapshot of just some of the things that APTA worked on, not all, but just some of the issues that APTA, was projects we're working on. But I think it's also one of those things where, if members want to know, absolutely contact us, and we're happy to set up calls. We have a number of resources that we can point to. So for example, tomorrow, our payment and regulatory team is doing an hour-long Q&A session just on payment issues. And they do this every other month. That's a member benefit, free to members. The other thing I would say is new resources that we're putting out. A new resource that just came out in the last month is the new APTA and PPS State Payment Advocacy Resource Center called SPARK. It's a collaboration between Private Practice Action and APTA. That is a whole new toolkit on, and that provides resources in dealing with commercial payers and Medicaid, whether it's denials, prior authorization, and utilization management. And so we are trying to show our value as well by creating these resources and tools so that individual practitioners, clinics have not only the support of APTA behind them, but also have resources that they can point to help them in their day-to-day practice, the day-to-day frustrations that everyone has when you get that denial or you have to wait an extra day for a prior authorization. Being able to provide those tools to help members out is priority for us.
Yeah. And for me, I think one thing that could help, you might know this and I don't, is an employer providing that for the employee. That's one of the perks. You mentioned, drawing people to different clinics in rural. If I have, one employer and let's just say everything's even, and one saying, hey, we're going to also pay for your APTA membership or reimburse for it. And it's easy for me to say because I'm my own employee right now. But, Matt, he has employees. It might be easier in a larger hospital setting, or if it's a, multi-site rehab facility. But I think that's an easy one right there.
Yeah.
Is that if you're at a larger organization that you offer that as a perk of hiring for your employees, that you pay for that membership.
Yeah. And it's something that we're also looking at in terms of our membership models, because, the world is changing and the profession is changing, APTA is changing. And what are some innovative membership models that we can do that maybe, and also how folks can engage, because, we have folks who are members who want to engage, either they want to be a chapter president or a federal affairs liaison, but others just want to do what we call micro engagement. They want to do, volunteer for one small project and then be done with it. So we're looking at, how can we be innovative in our membership, but also innovative in our member engagement, so that folks can have those, events and networking opportunities where they also can get that value of membership back as well.
I can speak to just the benefits that I've received in the last year from the APTA. So I got to go to CSM and finally just bit the bullet and went. And the leaders in our field were incredibly accessible. And not only that, they wanted to help you. So, I mean, it's like these people you read about, George Davies, and all these other people who sat down, we had a beer and food together and just were able to chat. And he talked to me about isokinetics. We ended up getting into isokinetics with the machine too. And just, let me think what else. We get a journal, we get JOSPT is helpful. We get access to some mentorship if you would like it too. And you get a break on going to CSM every year as well. But I think the contacts in my, I took a course at CSM to start podcasts too. So we're here because of something that the APTA actually put on too, which is worth saying too. So it's been a really, really good thing for me. I'm going to plan to, invest in the future, and maybe even with our clinicians. That's a great idea, Dan, as a perk. So.
Yeah, and I was going to say, we also, APTA members, we also have the benefit of, if you ever have a billing or coding question or a problem, or you get a denial from a payer and you're like, why are they denying this? Or you have a question about a clinical practice guideline, just a call away or email away to say, can you help guide me on this or help me solve this problem? And that's what APTA staff are here for, is to respond to APTA members who have questions or need assistance or guidance on anything from a payment issue to a practice issue to a research question. That's what staff are here to do, is to be able to assist members on whatever the issue of the day is.
Awesome.
Justin, thank you again for sitting down and talking with us today. How can people get in touch with you? Best
way to do it is easy email to remember: advocacy@apta.org, advocacy@apta.org. And not only is that the best way to contact me, but, again, if you have a question on Medicare payment, a prior auth denial, whatever, that is the main mailbox that we go to, and that are then able to assign that to the correct staff. But yeah, that's the best way, advocacy@apta.org. And that's how you get me.
Awesome. Justin, thank you for coming on. That's a hot seat you're sitting in. Hard questions today. So
thank you, listeners. This is episode 11. So if you've stayed to reach the end of this video, go back and watch episodes 1 through 10.
Yep.
I can tell you that all of them are good, but we have, some moments that are little sparks of genius.
Yeah, here and there. But thanks everyone. And we will catch you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.